Welcome to STUDYSmarter's top tips for referencing and using sources at UWA. These tips will help you understand why, what, and how to reference, know how to quote and paraphrase sources, and be able to summarize, synthesize, and check you're on track. Let's begin with why, what, and how to reference and use sources. One good reason for referencing is that it shows you've done your research. It makes your work seem credible, reliable, and solid, and indicates your scholarship. Another good reason is that it recognizes other people's contributions to ideas and is thus honest, fair, and ethical. Thirdly, referencing helps other people with their research. It allows them to find the sources you've referred to and look at them for themselves. And finally, referencing helps you avoid plagiarism. Sometimes it's tricky to know what to reference. As a general rule, you need to reference all ideas not your own. This includes, of course, words and concepts, and also theories and findings, music and videos, designs and drawings, and computer programs. Reference almost everything that is, except common knowledge. Common knowledge includes ideas that have been widely reported and accepted as facts. For example, it's common knowledge that pregnancy lasts about 9 months, so there's no need to reference this. Less well-known ideas, like statistics of deliveries in Australia this year, would need to be referenced. Before you can reference, of course, you need to do your research. When looking for sources, try not to pick them at random. Be selective and systematic. Ask critical questions about their relevance, lack of bias, scholarliness, currency, validity, and reliability. You can find scholarly sources using OneSearch, a powerful search tool that helps you find information fast. It checks through UWA's entire library collection, including all its online resources. Once you've selected your sources, include author and date information in all your notes. And keep a master reference list as a detailed roadmap to everything you've looked at. In this reference list, note who came up with each idea, when they did so, what title they've used, where work was produced, and how, which publisher or website. With these details in hand, you have what you need for in-text citations in your text, which are short and simple. You also have what you need for your end-of-text citations in your reference list, which are longer and far more detailed. Here we can see examples of referencing using an author-date citation system. Another common referencing system is a numerical or numbered citation style, shown here. If you're not sure what citation style to use, check the guide for your study area on the UWA Information Services website. Also on the UWA Information Services website, you can find EndNote, a software package that can help you keep track of your references. As a UWA student, you can download this and use it for free. Let's move on from referencing basics and take a look now at how to quote and paraphrase ideas. When you quote, you need to include quotation marks and page references. You can either quote by putting information first, as in this quote, or by putting author details first, like this. The first type of quote is called information prominent and emphasizes information. The second type is author prominent and emphasizes the author or authors. When you use author prominent quotes, select verbs carefully. Some are neutral, as in this example. Others are not, as we can see here. Another useful referencing tip is the short form et al. Many citation styles allow you to use this when there are more than 2 authors for a work, rather than writing out several names. When using quotes, it's also useful to know that you can add an explanatory word or words by putting these in square brackets. And you can also take information out if you need to by using an ellipsis or 3 dots to show that some words are missing. Here's a long quote. You don't need to read it. Notice, however, how it's indented and set off from the rest of the text. Indent rather than using quotation marks when your quote is more than 2 lines. Notice also how the authors introduce the quote and comment on it afterwards. Do the same when you include quotes in your writing. Keep most quotes short and be selective about which ones you use. Most of the words you write and speak should be your own, so try to paraphrase or reword ideas where you can, rather than overquoting. Paraphrasing, however, can be tricky. You need to capture the gist of what someone says, but in very different words. Take a moment to quickly read this text. Remember, you can always pause the screencast if you need to. Now take a look at this attempted paraphrase. Is it successful? That is, does it capture the meaning of the original, and is it expressed quite differently? Unfortunately not. Although it captures the meaning, it's too close in the way it's expressed. Only a few words have been changed. Now look at this paraphrase. What do you think? This one is better because it captures the original meaning but expresses ideas in a completely different way, retaining only technical terms. Here's another example. Take a look at the original, then check out the attempted paraphrase. What do you think? Is the paraphrase acceptable? Although quite a few words have been changed, the paraphrase is still too close to the original. Here's another attempted paraphrase of the same text. Do you think it's acceptable? It is, because it captures the meaning of the original, but it's expressed differently, with only technical terms and referencing information retained. The secret to successful paraphrasing is to read, reflect, write, review, and reference. If you go through this process, you're more likely to come up with a successful paraphrase than if you simply try to change isolated words. Quoting and paraphrasing are useful techniques, but using sources well also means that you know how to summarize, synthesize, and check your work. We'll look at these next. The easiest way to write a summary is to step back a bit from the original. Look for patterns within a text rather than at details. One way of stepping back to look for patterns is to focus only on topic sentences that begin paragraphs. Topic sentences usually contain the main ideas. Try looking only at these. Focusing only on topic sentences helps us see that the writer here is focusing on 2 categories of sleep disorders. The first type are benign, the second dangerous. Stepping back helps you to write a summary like this. Of course, even when you summarize, you still need to reference. So far, we've been looking at how to write short summaries, but sometimes you may want to include a more extended summary in your text. Say you've already summarized a lot of information from one source and written this extended summary paragraph. Have a quick read, pause this video if you need to. Given that all of the information comes from one source, how would you reference it? Would you do this? I wouldn't recommend it. If you do this, it looks like the only ideas in the last sentence come from Wilde. But that isn't what the writer intended. All of the ideas, in fact, come from Wilde. A reference at the bottom of the paragraph isn't sufficient to show this. So what else can you do? Here is the same paragraph rewritten with references at the end of each sentence. We can now see that all of the ideas are Wilde's, so that's an improvement. But the paragraph now feels repetitious and awkward. Let's fade out the main text for a minute and just focus on the references. We can see now that part of the reason it seems clunky is that all of the references are exactly the same. This is what makes the referencing seem so repetitious. Here's the paragraph again, with a mixture of different kinds of expressions used for referencing, some information prominent, some author prominent. take a quick look. How does it read now? To me, it reads much better. Let's fade out the main text to see the references more clearly. When you're writing extended summaries, try to vary your expression like this. So far, we've looked at quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing from a single source. When you're writing, however, it's also important to group related ideas from across several sources together where you can. We call this technique synthesis, and here's what it looks like in writing. Notice that the writers here have supported this point with references to several sources. Integrating and synthesizing ideas from a variety of sources like this is a powerful writing technique. Another powerful technique is to take the lead in discussions you have with your sources. Academic writing is like a conversation you have with other scholars, and taking the lead means beginning paragraphs as far as possible with your own words and ideas. Here's what this looks like in writing. The writers open the paragraph with their own statement on a topic. They then synthesize information from first one, then another, then a third source to support and develop what they say. Supporting your ideas with those from a variety of sources gives more weight to what you say. Here's a second example in which writers combine techniques by leading the discussion and integrating ideas from several sources. If you want your writing to have high impact, introduce paragraphs with your own ideas and words, then synthesize ideas from a variety of sources to support and develop what you have to say. Before submitting your writing, there are 4 things to check about your references and use of sources. First, is it clear where ideas in each sentence come from? Second, have you used in-text and end-of-text citations correctly? Third, have you mainly paraphrased and summarized ideas rather than quoting? And finally, have you used sources in the best possible way, stating your ideas up front, synthesizing other people's ideas, and using them to support and develop what you say? We hope you've enjoyed this short screencast. And remember, you can reference and use sources well if you know why, what, and how, can quote and paraphrase effectively, and summarize, synthesize, and check your work.